basketball can be a mysterious sport.
The team whose logo is in this envelope will have the first pick in the NBA draft.
Watch James. Now wanted a timeout, but too late to get it. And 5 minutes go up on the clock. Overtime here in game one.
Will Giannis win a title in a Milwaukee Bucks uniform?
It's hard for me to say that, Jay, considering how loaded the Lakers are. I don't know if you've been watching Taylor Horton Tucker over the last couple of days.
But what if those mysteries could be solved? What if those conspiracies are reality? The hoop truth is out there. Can you handle it? Okay, I am going to properly set your expectations for today's episode. Dre's had a little bit of wine. I've been smoking a little bit today. It's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. It's hard for people that are working every day. Give us a break. We're going to have some fun this episode. Welcome back to Hoop Truthers, a weekly podcast, sometimes weekly, sometimes a little bit more spaces than that. We're recording on a Wednesday, publishing on a Thursday. Joining me, as always, the official co-host of I was going to say No Bucks Given, the old episode. I'm telling you guys, we're a little bit loose today. Hoop Truthers, as well as a co-host of other things and a creator of many other things, Nick Andre at Nick Andre ATR on Twitter. Sir, how are we doing?
Doing good, man. We're feeling good tonight. You and I are both feeling good, enjoying some NBA. That's what it's all about.
It's been nice. There's games every night. I'm watching two teams consistently, and it's kind of making me busy. But we're at halftime of the Bucks game. We'll talk about them probably later. We got to cover some housekeeping first. They are up 9 at the half, like 1 for 18 from 3, and they're up 9 at the half regardless. We got some Marjan minutes. I'll be talking about that real quick. Okay, we're going to do Brooklyn for like 30 seconds. Here is what's happening in case you want the news from us, I guess. Kyrie tweeted a link with no context to a film with anti-Semitic tropes and filled with a lot of anti-Semitic language. I haven't seen the film for myself. I've seen some screenshots on Twitter that have been pretty nasty. He doesn't apologize for the tweet, and then he gets like called out for it, and he acknowledges like that it wasn't cool, I guess, but not apologizes, doesn't delete the tweet, and then like 2 days later deletes the tweet this past Sunday. The organization, I believe it's ADL, that they've been communicating with, sent representatives courtside to a Brooklyn game with Fight Anti-Semitism on their shirts. It was a pretty, ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Been boiling up. Shaq, Charles, that crew on TNT on, I believe yesterday, were saying that Kyrie should have been suspended by now. A lot of players, or not current players, but former players, not being a huge fan of this. And then today, the Nets, Kyrie, and the Anti-Defamation League put out a joint statement saying that Kyrie and the Nets will each donate $500,000, that's $1 million total, toward causes and organizations that work to eradicate hate and intolerance in our communities. But he does not apologize in the statement. He says, I take responsibility, and I do not believe everything said in the documentary, the film that he reposted, was true or reflects my morals and principles. Doesn't fucking apologize. Right after that statement's let out, Amari Stoudemire, a former Nets assistant coach and Suns legend, said that. Oh, also he converted to Judaism, I believe, in 2013, something like that. I saw an update. I don't want to get that wrong. In 2020, so more recently than that, but he converted to Judaism. Okay. He said he wants Kyrie to apologize for this because he hasn't apologized. It's nasty. beyond all of that, they fired Steve Nash on Monday, I think, or Tuesday, maybe yesterday, and they're probably going to hire Ime Udoka like a month after, being suspended for an entire year for conduct that violated team policies. The Celtics said that he messaged multiple, so not just the woman that he potentially consensual relationship. She may have made alleges on comments. So just, the Nets being like, fuck everything morality wise. It's terrible time to be an NBA fan, more so a Nets fan at this point. I don't know what's going to happen with the Kyrie thing, and I don't really want to talk about it. It's gross, and it makes me feel really bad. Dre, give me like whatever you want to say on the topic, and then we'll talk about better stuff.
So it's really hard for me to actually speak on the whole Kyrie situation with the anti-Semitism situation, just because I haven't really done my research. But it's just an unfortunate situation because it's just another distraction within the Brooklyn Nets organization, and there's just a lot going on in Brooklyn right now. It's just too much to really gather, honestly. And it's just it's just really from one thing to the next. You mentioned it, Steve Nash just got fired. Now there's going to be a potential signing of former Celtics head coach now Udoka, which I want to say
as well.
Former Nets assistant as well, definitely. So he definitely has some ties with the organization. Sean Marks actually had a press yesterday saying that he hadn't made a decision, but it seems, according to Woj, that they have made a decision. So it's just a lot going on in Brooklyn right now. We know that they stink right now. They just lost to Chicago last night. Kyrie only had about 4 points, I want to say, on like 2 for 12 shooting. So it's just a lot going on in Brooklyn. I'll be honest and say this. I don't know if they can recover. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think they really have the team to recover. I don't know if they have the personnel to recover. Not only is Kyrie not really playing up to standards. I mean, Kevin Durant's getting his numbers. Definitely give him credit.
Always does, yeah.
Yeah, Ben Simmons, I know that he's hurt now, but he has not played up to standard. And I know that we should give him the benefit of the doubt because he missed an entire year last year, but it's just not looking good for him either. So, like I said, I mean, it's just a lot of distractions in New York, and it's kind of crazy because it's normally the Knicks in New York that is like causing a lot of friction and everything, but now it's not them. They're actually playing a lot better than Brooklyn right now. So, yeah, it's just a lot to unfold with Brooklyn right now, man. It's going to be a long season. We're only in early November,
and even outside of all of that, Cameron Thomas, your guy Cam Thomas, is basically begging for a trade on his IG stories right now, posting video clips and shit like that. I don't know if he's going to get dealt. You'd hope so. I think at this point, I mean, they lost. I saw this tweet. They lost the game after they fired the coach. Everybody wins the game after you fire the coach. You know what I mean? Even bad teams, they fire the coach and they immediately get a win because everyone wins after they fire the coach. And they still lost. That has nothing to do with Jacques Vaughn, by the way, who's the interim head coach, by the way. I think I fully endorse him as the next head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. I think he's paid his dues and he deserves a shot, worth nothing else. But
it's definitely a better option than what they're trying to go with right now.
Yeah. Ime Udoka, to fully brush aside the shit, which is what they're doing right now with their due diligence, was a great coach in year one and took the Celtics to finals, and a lot of it was his coaching. I understand the allure of that, but it's not necessarily worth, outside of the morality reasons, just destroying your name. Like, the Nets are so unserious right now. They're going to be taken so unserious. Does a KD trade happen? If a KD trade happens, does Kyrie? Because Kyrie's not. No one's trading for Kyrie right now. I really doubt it. You know.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Me personally, I can't say it. Like, we all know Kyrie the talent, but do you want Kyrie the personality in the locker room? And I think that's really the biggest question. I mean, we all know that this past offseason there was Laker talks, the possible reunite of him and LeBron James, which could possibly still be on the table if LeBron does approve of it, because at the end of the day, Rob Pelinka just kind of goes with whatever LeBron says.
That's exactly right.
Honestly, for other 29 teams, I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, we kind of talked about it last night in our chat, and it's like it's been a lot more bad. Like the tenure with Kyrie has kind of been more bad than good. It's like, you can't really remember the memorable moments with him being with the Nets. It's almost like you remember all of like the negative things that's going on, and it's like, and it's unfortunate because he's had his 50-point games with them. He's had many memorable moments or like good moments on the court, but it's like when you think of everything that has went down with Kyrie, he played 20 games in the first year. He didn't go into the bubble with the team after the season was suspended. We all know the vaccine situation. Actually, before that, after the whole situation at the White House, not trying to get political, but after the whole situation at the White House, he decided to miss time, which people were upset about. And look, I'm always on record saying that at the end of the day, I may not always agree with what Kyrie does, but at the end of the day, I respect it. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you decide to make these decisions, you have to face the consequences.
Right.
So that is kind of where it is right now. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like, this whole Kyrie tenure at Brooklyn has not really gone well. I don't know what the future is looking like for this team. Who knows, man? Who knows?
It's ugly, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. We're at the 9-minute, 30-second mark, which means we talked about it for a lot longer than the 30
too long.
So let's move on to some other shit right now. I want to talk about the Blazers. Let's talk about the Blazers real quick, who are playing well. I think it's probably not cool to start with the Brooklyn stuff and not mention that Chauncey Billups should probably be in some heat himself or whatever for the issues with his past, not to avoid what he did. But the Blazers are 5-1 right now. Dame has been out for some games, and they're winning those games regardless, which never happened in the past. Anthony Simons looks like what CJ McCollum did, but in the modern game when he was first coming up in Portland. Just really, really good. Jeremy Grant and Josh Hart have been monstrous on the defensive end, and Jeremy Grant has put in some clutch buckets for them at the end of certain games. Yusuf Nurkic is probably going to get dealt. He's doing just okay this year. We can talk about that in a second. Off the bench, you got Shaedon Sharpe, man, who's like a real basketball player. I didn't know. We didn't have the tape. I'm not personally like a basketball evaluator that gets stuff from watching all the film from high school and just, projecting it out. I'm not PD Webb. Shout out PD Webb, by the way.
Shout out to PD, man. We need him back on the show.
We should get him back on. We'll see if we can. Maybe we can do like a mid-season checkup on prospects for the next draft like we did this time-ish last year. With the Blazers, Shaedon Sharpe is a basketball player. He's hitting shots. His offense is there, which was what people were thinking would translate. That's why you drafted him. But he's doing little things. He's not, Josh Hart, where he's rebounding and playing gritty defense and anything like that. But he's not sucking at all those things. He's doing moderately fine for a rookie at a lot of facets of the game, and I just didn't expect that right away. Dre, have you watched any of Shaedon more recently? At the beginning of the year, he didn't get a lot of run, but past few games, especially with the Dame injury, I think he got the start the other day when Dame was out.
Yeah, and I think it's really big for him. So we all know the story of Shaedon Sharpe. He didn't play a game in college, so I guess you could say that kind of is a reason why he's not really getting he didn't get the opportunity first few games, but obviously, with Dame going out, Chauncey Billups kind of had no choice but to start him. But even before then, he had some pretty good preseason run. I know it's preseason. We don't want to get too carried away with it, but he at least showed us a little bit of something. So that's why I'm very excited.
Better than having a bad preseason.
Exactly. So he ended up getting the start on. Who did they play? I think they played Houston in the last game.
We're going to talk about them next.
Yeah, definitely. So, the thing about Shaedon to me is that he seems really cool. He seems like his game is really cool. Kind of plays at like a slower pace, and I mean, we know that he has the perimeter game. He has the athleticism. It just seems like he's really confident in his game, and I think that's one thing that I am pretty impressed with when it comes to him. His defense, at least from the highlights of the Houston game, his defense looked pretty decent in that game. I mean, I think he had a little bit of struggles in the preseason on defense, but in his last game, it looks like he played pretty well on the defensive end. So that's definitely something that he can improve upon. But I really hope to see him become more in the rotation. But it is also hard because now it's like you have Gary Trent Jr. not Gary Trent Jr. Gary Payton II, who is looking to make his return, and that's going to be really big, especially on the defensive end. You still got guys like Anthony Simons. You still got Nasir Little. So where does Shaedon really fit into this rotation? once Dame does come back. We know what he brings on the offensive end, but when you have veterans like GP2 and the rest of these guys, it is kind of difficult, especially with how well Portland is playing right now.
I think with GP2 coming back, which is a lot of reason that Shaden Sharp is getting minutes to start the year. I agree. I think, though, if he really continues this run where he looks good, Chauncey doesn't have much of a choice to include him. It's not like him and Gary have overlapping talents necessarily. And beyond Gary Payton, I don't know if there's a backup guard. Nasir Little, they kind of run out as the three. So they can run out two of them. Obviously, with Dan Anthony needing heavy minutes, Sharp's minutes are probably going to go down. That's fine. Dude's like 19 years old. If he doesn't get starter minutes in year one, he's going to be fine. I think the team is making me feel things, and a Portland team hasn't made me feel things in a little bit because I've just been pretty pessimistic about their successful chances. I don't think this team necessarily wins a playoff series right now, but I do think that they have the tools to win one, like to get a trade done, is what I'm saying, to win one. I talked about this on Twitter, and I've seen it before on other people's pages as well. Dre, we're talking Yusuf Nurkic, Jabari Walker, like a rookie, and maybe a protected pick, top 5 or something, for Jakob Poeltl in San Antonio. How does that sound?
I like it. Personally, I like it. I mean, you know that I'm really big on Jakob Poeltl, especially with the versatility that he brings on the defensive end. Kind of mind-boggling that San Antonio wants to find a trade for him, but if you can get him on a playoff contender, especially with how well Portland is playing, I think you can make that happen. We know what we know what Nurkic brings to the table. He's a guy that can't space the floor on offense. His mobility is not really impressive to me. I know that some people don't have a problem with it, but it's not really that impressive to me. But besides that, I mean, he's a pretty decent player. He can give you good minutes. I don't know if San Antonio will want to keep him long term. I don't know if they'll just maybe want to play it after that. Yeah, I don't know if they want to play
a new deal though.
Right. So I don't know if they. No, you're good. I don't know if they want to play it out throughout the rest of the year and then possibly find something for him. But Nurkic is. I think at this stage he can be a pretty good backup center for a playoff contending team. So, in my opinion, if you're Portland, I would say yes without hesitation. Bring in Jakob Poeltl. He could be your starting big. Definitely be an anchor on the defensive end, especially with his rim protection. And I feel like that would definitely elevate this team right now, especially with them being 5-1. If you add a guy like Jakob Poeltl, that's big.
Yeah, I think they're going to be 5-2 after today. It just hasn't updated. They got beat down by the Heat earlier this afternoon, or maybe I have that wrong, but I'm confused. I was looking at the schedule and it really had me confused.
Yeah, so they're playing Memphis later tonight.
Okay, they're playing Memphis later tonight. They got destroyed by the Heat on last week Wednesday. Okay, got my dates wrong.
So who knows? Honestly, sorry not to cut you off, but Memphis kind of struggled Memphis has kind of struggled recently, so you never know.
Yeah, didn't the Spurs just beat Memphis by like 20?
I don't think so. I know that Utah just beat them twice. Utah just beat them twice.
It was Utah. I was thinking of the other tanking team. So they signed him to a 4-year, $70 million deal. This is Nurkic. 15 this year, 16 the year after, 18 and 19. Honestly, that's not terrible. Like, that's not an untradeable contract by any means. I think in the NBA rules, if you trade for a player, you can trade them again if they're the only player that you're sending out. You can't package it with the other players. I think they could find him a new home. Charlotte needs a center again. They still need a center. I think Mark Williams has shown some pretty good stuff in preseason and summer league. He's just not really getting minutes for Charlotte right now. That's so cool. But I think, Nurkic would do something for them. I'm sure there's teams out there that would be into it, to have like the space for it. Honestly, he's not the worst guy. He's not going to like win you 10 more games a year, I don't think. So I think San Antonio would love to have him on if they just, for a year or two. I am also
I'm trying to think of teams that would need a backup big. I don't know if Atlanta could possibly use them.
Atlanta maybe.
Probably not.
I think they have their sights on. I think if they're going to make a move for center, I think they have a plan for something bigger than that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I could see the Maybe no, not the Grizzlies. Maybe the Thunder. The Thunder could really use a center. Even when
Thunder,
Chet
yeah.
comes back, you could pair them together. The Clippers could use a backup center, but they can't. They don't have the cap space to make that work. The Warriors. I mean, how does? We'll talk about them in a second. But how confident are you? 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 with James Wiseman right now?
I'm really iffy with James Wiseman.
Okay.
And I understand that he did miss most of last year with the injury. I definitely understand that. And it's not even his offense that I have an issue with. It's just that he's really getting exploited on defense, which is kind of a major issue for me. So, but I still feel like he can develop. But honestly, like if the Warriors would trade a guy for a guy like Nurkic, it's like how does he get minutes? Because Kevon Looney is still a starting center,
right?
And then you have Wiseman coming off the bench as well. So
what about the Nets? Nets could use a center.
The Nets really could, honestly. And look, I like Nick Claxton. I think Nick Claxton has honestly made a big improvement this year. But
his numbers are better.
Yeah, his numbers are definitely better. But honestly, Brooklyn might be able to use him. Brooklyn probably.
Yeah, I could see that. They have some contracts that they could use in the deal. I don't know how much it improves them, but they don't have to trade any picks in that deal. I don't think it's just a contract someone's moving on. I love the Pirtle fit in Portland. I hope that happens. Like the only things I want more to happen are the Bucks trades that I have. I'm visualizing at all times. But that would be a wonderful addition to a really nice, fun team right now. And I think Dame, Anthony, Josh, Jeremy, Pirtle, Shaden, Gary Payton, Nasir off the bench can win a playoff series against certain teams.
Could a team like Toronto use Nurkic?
Yeah, I mean they could. They don't. If they have contracts that they want to give up, I also think that if they make a play for a center, it's going to be something bigger than that. But like I said, he's on a decent contract. It's a few years long. It's easily tradable again. I could see them using him. Although apparently that Christian Coloco kid looks good for him. I have not seen a lot of Toronto this year. Have you?
I haven't seen him either, honestly. I hate it.
It's hard to get to everything.
I know.
I'm seeing Detroit for the first time this year because they're playing back-to-back games against the Bucks. Kate is another steal for Javon Carter, who's been
Detroit is looking good. Detroit is looking pretty solid. I mean, they're pretty up and down, but that's expected. I mean, they're a very young team. They just beat the shit out of the Warriors on Sunday, so they're looking pretty solid.
They are. We were just talking about the Blazers. Let's move on from the Blazers and talk about. Let's do the Warriors, the team that you've been watching more recently, or your team in general, the one that you know. They are struggling right now. And I told you at the beginning of the preseason, when we did our predictions, that I was a little bit more pessimistic on the Warriors this year because it was going to take time for the rookies to acclimate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they are taking time to acclimate, but Kuminga's not even playing. I'm not watching, so I don't get the situation. Dre, for the listeners, but also for me, I feed on information. Tell me what's going on with the Warriors right now.
I think you just got to stay patient with them. When I was watching the Miami game last night, I was getting very frustrated just because, at the end of the day, that's my team. I'm rooting for them at the end of the day. But I think it's just all about patience and in various reasons. We mentioned, we had a lot of veterans last year. We had Bielitsa, we had Otto Porter, Gary Payton II. Those guys aren't here anymore, unfortunately. So now, but also, I mean, it's a gift and a curse at the same time because now that opens up more minutes for James Wiseman who is now returned into the rotation, Moses Moody. But also, we do have some key veterans. JaMychal Green has given us good minutes so far. DiVincenzo hasn't really seen the floor as much, so I don't know if that may change in the future or not. But
he's been kind of bumped up too, right?
I think so, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, that may change, honestly, as the season progresses. But there's a lot of reasons to just kind of stay patient with this team. Another thing is Clay hasn't been the same Clay, which is expected. I know that there was a whole controversy with Charles Barkley made a statement that Clay isn't the same Clay, and then Clay just practically responded saying no shit.
Right,
but,
which is fair. I think it was fair for both of them to say that.
Right, exactly. So I'm not necessarily mad at it. So you have to stay patient with it from that perspective, but you just gotta stay patient overall with this Warriors team. I mean, right now we're 0-3 on this road trip. We have Orlando tomorrow. We actually played a pretty decent game against Miami, especially in the second half. It's just that, give credit to Miami. They executed well late in the fourth quarter, and I think that we just kind of ran out of gas towards late in the game. But right now we're 3-5. We are the champions. I think this is a team that's kind of been in this position numerous times before, even though this is kind of a new revamped roster compared to how it's been over recent years. But do we expect the Warriors to struggle through the course of the season with this type of roster? Possibly not. So right now, like I mentioned, we're 3-5 right now. We have Orlando tomorrow. That may possibly be a really good game for us to get a win. I mean, it definitely will be a tough one, especially with how Apollo's played.
Man.
Let me just say this right now. I mean, just to get kind of sidetracked. Right now, it's him and Ben Mather for me. That's kind of dancing for right now for the top rookie. But back to the main plot. Hopefully that can be a win for us that may rejuvenate the team, could possibly get us back on the right track, give us some momentum. But I'm not expecting this Warriors team to struggle any longer. I was frustrated last night as I was watching the Miami game, but I also understand that, we just got to stay patient with this team. We have key veterans. We've been in these positions many times. I think that we can bounce back from it, hopefully, sooner than later.
Yeah, I am pessimistic. I had them like 5 on my preseason Western Conference standings, something like that. And it is not an indictment on their playoff ceiling. I think they're still, especially with how I mean, we're talking about the Warriors struggling. The Clippers are struggling even more so than the Warriors, both with health and with their playing. The Clippers are 3-4 right now, so actually one game better than the Warriors, but that it's beyond the point. But the Warriors are the team to beat right now. I know the Suns are 6-1, and they did this last year.
I'm still not big on Phoenix, man. I'm sorry. I'm still not that big on them.
I think the Phoenix is actually a pretty good matchup.
They're decent right now, but I don't know.
Maybe they make a move, maybe they don't. I think the Warriors are actually a team that they can expose a little bit because CP3 and DeAndre Ayton get switches on the smalls better than anyone, and they finish those plays better than anyone, and the Warriors play a lot of smalls, and they don't play a lot of bigs. So there's something there. I think the Warriors' offense and expertise just comes into play a little bit, but it's weird. What's up? I just don't get Kuminga not playing. And they're trusting Wiseman over him. And if you want Wiseman to work out, I get it. But Kuminga is a long wing. It's complicado. I don't know why he's not doing
this. This is something that I don't understand. I mean, there's been issues with Kuminga, probably dating back to the offseason. I think there was a lot of talk saying that they don't like his work ethic and everything. So I don't know what's going on with Kuminga in the organization. I don't know if this will continue. I don't know if they may possibly let him get some G League run with the Santa Cruz Warriors or not. But Kuminga's super versatile, man. I feel like, you got to give him a shot. He's a part of that piece as far as the youth of the Warriors. Jordan Poole, James Wiseman, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga. Like, I feel like it's those 4 that are really like the moving pieces as far as what the future looks like for the team. I'm not understanding, what the issue is. I haven't really looked that deep into it, but Kuminga is a very versatile player, like I mentioned earlier. He had some good minutes with us last year, so that's why I'm not even really understanding what the issue is this year. He's a very long person. Pause. And I mean, he definitely brings a lot of versatility, like I mentioned, on the defensive end. He can get to the rim. He can definitely improve on his jump shot, but that's neither here or there. So I just hope that possibly something can work out for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga. Because right now, I want to say that a guy like Jermichael Green is possibly getting his minutes right now. Which, I mean, he is a key veteran for the team. I definitely like what he's been, the production that he's brought to this team. But when you got a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, you got to give him the opportunity.
It's confusing me. I hope we see more of it in the next coming of weeks. Let's move on from the Warriors, who we're not really worried about, to the Rockets, who I am really worried about. I'll give you context. I actually watched a lot of the Rockets last year when I moved to the West Coast. For whatever reason, they always had the latest game on, and I was always up kind of late, so I would just always watch the Rockets.
Right.
Recently, I saw them play the Bucks a few weeks ago, and on Monday, I went to the Clippers game.
So hang on, right before you keep going, I want to ask you this. I mean, you don't have to respond to it like right away, but
Sure.
I read a tweet earlier today. I think it said something like Jalen Green is shooting like 8% from like the mid range. I don't know if that is concerning or not to this Rocket team. So you don't have to respond now, but since you have watched Houston a lot more than I have, I want to hear your take on it.
I will definitely cover that. Most recently on Monday, I saw them play the Clippers in person. Really nice view. I really like seeing the game in person. Close game. Paul George pulls it out of his ass for them to get a win. They probably should have lost that game like 7 times before Paul George gave them the win, a win they desperately needed. We'll talk about them later. The Rockets, though, here's the thing. I think Rockets fans have an insecurity about them, like a lot of young teams fans do on Twitter. Whenever someone criticizes a young player on the Rockets or the Rockets' talent level, they get really defensive about it, which is totally fine. It's not meant to be like a diss or anything. I'm super defensive about the Bucks on Twitter. Fans are. So truthfully, I think they have as much talent as not as much as the Orlandos or the Detroits. Now that they've both added multiple lottery picks to their things as well, but I think it's really close there. I think they have a really bright future, but instead of Detroit, where it's Dwayne Casey. We love Dwayne Casey and some veterans that make sense that fit around the roster, an ideal roster structure. They're not necessarily winning games, but there's a vision there. And in Orlando, where they're 1-7, but they look incredible regardless. And Jamal Mosley, I think, has got them playing as well as they can without any of their guards healthy. I really hesitate to criticize Steven Silas because I don't know if this is on purpose, like they're trying to just tank games and lose games, and this is their strategy for going about it. That's what I chalked it up to last year. Now I have a serious question if he's just not necessarily, like his rotations are bad. Everyone is misutilized. They're not used correctly in the offense. I'm watching Dacian Nix, who we like Dacian Nix from the G League.
Love him.
On the court for minutes where he just doesn't look great on the NBA court right now. He needs more time. And on the court with Jalen Green in the backcourt, and Dacian Nix is initiating the offense every single time. I guess because he's a point guard and Jalen's not a point guard, but that's not how you should be. He's shooting 8% on mid-ranges. I think if he's initiating the offense more, you're letting him run, 25 pick and rolls a game instead of however many you're sending him right now.
That's true.
Really let him work because I think Jalen Green is fucking great. I think Jalen Green isn't
he's talented.
Like I have high hopes for his offense because he's got really buttery jumper. He's got athleticism, like jump out of the gym athleticism. He can finish at the rim. He's got a mid range despite the percentages, and he's 6'6". He's not one of these small guards that are great at scoring like a Tyrese Maxey, who's awesome, but his ceiling is limited because he's a bit smaller. He's not Trey Mann in OKC. We love Trey Mann. But he's 6'6", and I think he actually will. He's going to fill out that frame. He's pretty thin right now. I think he's going to become like an average to good defender. Like I don't think he's Trae Young on that court. So I really have high visions for Jalen Green, but he's just not being used that way. And Josh Christopher gets so many on-ball reps, and Kevin Porter Jr. is being used as a point guard, and I think he'd be a really good 3 for that team, and they need an actual 1 to run the offense. Alperen Şengün, when he starts, he doesn't finish like game. He gets pulled for no reason. That's what happened against the Clippers. The Clippers went on like a 7-0 run to win the game when they pulled Şengün with like 2 minutes left. And then when they have like 3 other healthy centers, they don't start Şengün. They'll start Bruno Fernando over him. They'll start anyone over him. Derek fucking – anyways. I don't –
So are you impressed with Steven Silas' coaching this year so far?
No, I'm not, but I also just don't know if he's had enough time, you know? He seems to be very impactful with that young team, and that young team seems to like him a great bunch. In particular, Kevin Porter Jr., who said the Rockets saved his life during preseason after he was just in a bad place mentally with the Cleveland trade. And Steven Silas cried when he heard that. And I think that's really important, maybe more important when you have such a young team, a guy who's just 19 and Jabari Smith Jr. who's like 19 and these young guys who need a mentor. Maybe that's more important than the basketball. And I think Steven
Right.
Silas excels at that part of the game. Not everyone does. Steven Silas seems to. I just don't think, I think Jalen would be, I don't know how to put it, but he'd be averaging some crazy splits right now if he was allowed to cook. That's the point. Let's just sum it up without going too deep into analysis. They need to let Jalen Green cook, and they're not letting him cook. So he initiates offense when he's out of rhythm, and that leads to missed shots and 8% from mid range or whatever. Dre, I don't think you've seen a ton of Houston, but based on what I'm seeing, I mean, do you have any thoughts on how to best utilize Jalen Green or anyone else on that roster you want to talk about? I mean, we got Tari Eason that should probably get more minutes, should probably be starting at the 3 or 4,
No, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, I definitely think that you need to allow Jalen Green to really be your primary ball handler. Because I mean, he can do a lot of things with the ball. You know, we obviously know that he can score the rock, but even dating back to his high school days to the G League Ignite, and even last year, you know, he's shown some passing ability as well. So if you allow him to initiate the offense and really create everything that goes on the offense, then you could possibly more opportunities, like you mentioned. Like, you know, he could possibly run pick and roll with a guy like Jabari Smith Jr. or Sengun.
Right.
I mean, you just never know unless you give him that opportunity. So, you know, Houston's what, like 1-7 right now. So we obviously know that this team's not going to get anywhere. But
1-7.
you know, like with this team, obviously having no expectations, I think as a coach for Steven Silas, you need to just at least, you know, try a little bit of everything at this point in the season. You know, try some different schemes this game or that game, and just see what works.
I agree. I would just hope to see, even if the stuff doesn't work, you know, even if the Jalen Green pick and rolls don't work and he sucks at it for a lot of the season, then you still lose games. You're already losing a lot of games, so
It's an experiment, you know.
Right.
You got to shoot. You got to try a little bit of everything, especially when you're a young team like the Rockets are.
It would be cool if you build good habits while you're losing games. It's hard to do, but a lot of teams do it. That's my thoughts on Houston. I would really just hope to see a little bit more cohesion there. Please trade Eric Gordon. He's so good.
I've been waiting on that for years. Like, he needs to be on a playoff contender.
He needs to start for a playoff contender right now.
The Lakers could use him.
The Lakers could use him. The Bucks would start him. We don't have the money to make it work. I think he makes like 19 a year. But the Suns should have traded for him last year. Maybe they'll do it this year. He would start, or if not start, he would be their best guard off the bench and maybe like their fourth best fucking player. You need to. I think the Suns will do something at some point, but hopefully someone trades for him because, god damn it, he is too good. Not just he likes being on the Rockets. He would have asked out by now, and the Rockets like having him. So I'm not saying he's wasting his time there, but I watch.
Could this almost be like a Kevin Love situation? Because even after the whole LeBron days, he stayed in Cleveland and he went through those trying years. Now I don't know. I mean, we don't know what the future looks like for Houston. We don't know if they'll possibly be in this position for the next 2 or 3 years, or maybe they might elevate as far as a playing contender. So I don't know. It might be that situation. Who knows?
I was hoping that last year was the last year that they were going to be like this bad. And I get it. Like if they get a top 3 pick today, this year, it's awesome for them, you know. Then you can, you know, even if you don't get Wemby, maybe you get Scoot and you can slide KPJ to the 3 and play Scoot, Jalen, KPJ, Tari Eason, and Jabari Smith Jr. as a death lineup, some shit like that. You know what I mean? So I get it. If they're going to lose the games, that's cool. This year is a good year to do it. I just would like to see better habits being built, and I hope that the roster is more ideal. They've got like a rim-running center threat for Jalen Green. They've got a little bit more shooting, or they start Tari Easton and start the development train early, something like that. and maybe get some veterans in the mix beyond Eric Gordon to fill out the bench, and they compete not necessarily for a title, but compete for a play-in spot. And then if you don't make the play-in, you still get like a mid-tier lottery pick, and you can pick someone that's NBA ready or something like that. I hope this is the last year of them sucking, because I follow a lot of people for whatever reason. I'm not really sure. Sometimes I just follow like a number of people within like a other team's fan base so I can get like their information, how they see it from things. Follow a lot of Houston fans, and they're fucking pissed, man. And they're starting to turn on Steven a little bit too.
I can imagine.
We got 9 seconds here. Bucks are up 15 within the third quarter. Let's see if they just called a foul. Let's see if they get free throws. But if there's like a little shot ski or something, I'll tell you. I'm watching the Bucks game on the side, guys. Don't get mad. Dre's watching a game above his.
Yep. I'm watching Boston and Cleveland right now on ESPN.
How's that going?
Right now, Cleveland just took the lead. Evan Mobley just hit like a floating hook shot. So now Cleveland's up 97-96 with under 4 minutes to go.
Dang, I bet everyone's watching that game, and I'm watching the Bucks beat the shit out of the Pistons because I'm addicted.
Yeah. It's a pretty good game. I don't know if we should touch on Cleveland a little bit or not.
Why not? Have you watched?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of them. I watched a lot, or I wouldn't say a lot of games, but a few games. Probably including that last Boston game where Karis LeVert and Donovan Mitchell just went ape crazy, which is crazy to me. So I am a little bit concerned because Donovan Mitchell has been sensational so far through the course of this year. And now you have Darius Garland coming back. So I don't know. I mean, obviously somebody's going to have to make a little bit of sacrifice. I don't know if Mitchell can possibly be that same initiator as he once was. We know that he could be the scorer, but I don't know if he wants to lead the playmaking to Garland and allow him to really initiate the offense. I mean, they're both phenomenal. They're both phenomenal passers.
Yeah.
But I'm just really concerned with that. I just hope that, because obviously Garland is back right now and they are winning as of right now. I just hope that it doesn't cause any friction within the team or like, on the court where next thing you know, like they may go on like a losing streak because there's some chemistry issues. So
sure.
If they can try to sustain that with Garland and Mitchell on the court, as I expect, this Cleveland team might be better than I thought. Even honestly, Evan Mobley's been having a pretty solid year. Jared Allen. Let me just say something about Jared Allen. I did not realize how good of a passer he is as a big. Like I'm watching the dynamic of him and Evan Mobley, finding that connection with one another. I didn't realize how good of a passer that he once was. I don't know if it's maybe just I didn't pay attention or if this was something that he may have developed in recent over the recent offseason, but it's looking really good. So Cleveland's looking really good right now. I don't know if they can really sustain as far as being like a top 2 or 3 team in the East, but I'm really impressed with how they're playing right now. Yeah, they're 5-1 right now.
And maybe 6-1 by the end of tonight.
Possibly. I mean, there's a chance.
They are spooky. Like they are such a good team, and they can throw so many different looks at you. Slightly less because of the Laurie trade. They loved running those 3 massive guys at with each other, but the Cavs, I honestly, even if there is like a couple of losses because of some chemistry issues, I don't think it's going to cause any friction or drama because you know what? We believe in JB Bickerstaff. We love JB Bickerstaff.
I love JB.
And they do a lot of things to your Jarrett Allen point that Memphis has done since the Taylor Jenkins regime pulled over. And the Budenholzer regime does this pretty well. They utilize players in ways they haven't before. They encourage growth. They did the same thing with Steven Adams and his passing in Memphis. Now they're doing it with Jared Allen in Cleveland, operating out of the elbow, initiating some action. 2-man game with him and Mobley is so smart, and it's very effective. And then the question of the 3 doesn't really matter because it seems like whoever they start at the 3 has a pretty big game. Karis LeVert's dropping with 40-point games. Dean Wade is playing great defense.
Dean Wade has been good, yep.
Okoro's had some games. His offense hasn't improved as much as we wanted to, but the defense is as legit as it ever has been, and they could use that off the bench, especially starting 2 undersized guards. They are scary. They still have resources to make another trade if they want to, say for like a Jay Crowder to start at the 3 or something like that. And
I think that would be pretty big. I think that would.
Yeah. They also don't even need to make a move because they still got Ricky Rubio freezing in the cryogenic chamber right now. He's going to come out and be the third crazy guard that they have, just like he was last year. It's good stuff in Cleveland, but they haven't had they're going to play. They're in the same division, so we'll see 4 games of them with the Milwaukee Bucks. I'll be watching those very closely. Could be an ECF preview.
That could be a possibility.
We're in the 4th right now. Bucks are up 17. Starters are still in, so let's see if they can get this past 20. I'd love this to be an easy night for Giannis and co, and to go 7-0 would be awesome. I really thought that, oh man, Drew 3, 20-point game.
There you go.
Holiday season. We're at 43 minutes. We can go longer if you want. Anything else that's been on your mind in the NBA? I'm just going to look at the standings right now. I haven't seen a lot of Boston. We talked about not seeing Toronto. I've seen Atlanta a few times. They look pretty good. I think they're still figuring out some things. DeAndre Hunter looks like the guy that they paid to be. It's really cool that he's improved this year.
I honestly haven't seen a lot of Atlanta, man. I'm kind of sad too.
I haven't seen the Knicks. I've seen the Bulls. They look just fine.
The Knicks are pretty decent so far, and I really think that they found their point guard. Jalen Brunson has been phenomenal for this team. Even Julius Randle, like I'm happy for Julius because I don't see Julius really playing in this ISO ball, settling for jump shots. I see him being more in attack mode and really getting good quality shots. RJ Barrett has been kind of struggling on the offensive end so far this year, but I feel like he could possibly turn that around. I don't know if he's trying to adjust playing alongside Jalen Brunson or not, but the Knicks are looking pretty decent so far. They're obviously not looking as bad as the other New York team, but it's been a pretty good first few weeks for the Knicks.
The vibe that I get from New York Knicks Twitter is that RJ Barrett kind of always has slow starts to the season, and they're kind of tired of it at this point. So I think he'll pick it up. He always does. Julius Randle, you got it right, spot on. He looks fine. I mean, not as good as his most improved year, but he's like a usable starter in the league. Mitch Robinson, when he's healthy, which is always the question, looks okay. I think his defense is good. His offensive rebounding has been on display. People have been talking about it a lot. Obi Toppin is hitting his threes, by the way, like beyond doing the crazy athletic stuff and rebounding pretty well for his size. He's starting to hit those threes. I think at some point they might have to move Randall to let Obi start. They got to get some more minutes for Quickly.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
They like using Grimes for his drop coverage navigation. They got a lot of guys at this point. Maybe they can move some of that weight around. They're 3-3 right now. The Hornets, Dennis Smith Jr. Want to talk about Dennis Smith Jr.?
Definitely. Dennis Smith Jr. We all know that he's had his ups and downs. He started out in Dallas, went to New York. New York was practically a shit show for him. They were booing him, I think, at one point of the season.
Yeah,
and it's been a pretty good struggle for him. He even talked about going to the NFL, which was kind of surprising for me.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter. It's so weird.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. I didn't understand that, but hey, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But
hey, if it works
for him, that's true. But for him to be on the Charlotte team, obviously getting the opportunity. LaMelo still has yet to play this year. They're being led by Terry Rozier, but he has definitely given some good quality minutes so far. The jump shot is still not there. He still doesn't really have that perimeter game, but he's definitely, he has that athleticism, so he's definitely being able to attack the basket. He has been really, really solid this year. Charlotte, in general, hasn't been too bad for me this year. I mean, we mentioned Mark Williams. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we mentioned Mark Williams earlier this year. His ability to be a great rim protector, which is something that Charlotte really needs. I like a guy like Mason Plumlee, but I don't know what the future may look like for him. I don't know if they want to keep him long term.
I would assume so. Like if it's not in Steve Clifford's plans, it's in the GM's plans, right. And maybe Steve Clifford then isn't in the plans. Dennis Smith Jr., not to make like direct comparisons, but he's this year's Gary Payton, right?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was bouncing around teams, not able to stay in place more than a year. Got it to a team with honestly kind of a similar team. Obviously, the Hornets are like a Diet Coke version, but like a little bit like the Warriors, especially when LaMelo is healthy and they can use a little Gary Payton to run around. I like it. I'm a fan of second chances like this specific version of second chances or fourth chances, whatever it is for Dennis Smith Jr. And the Hornets are 3-4. But not as terrible as I thought. I haven't seen. I've seen like I'll tune into a Pacer game for like 2 or 3 minutes and something else that'll come on, like the Clippers or the Bucks game. By the way, we've got fourth quarter Marjan minutes, 9 minutes left. Anyways,
Let's
so
go.
I haven't seen much of the Pacers. You see much of the Pacers at all?
I watched the Friday night game against. Oh, actually, yeah, I think I've seen like the last 3 games they played. Friday night against Washington, which Buddy Hield was shooting the lights out in that game.
Yeah,
and then they played Brooklyn twice. They blew out. I wouldn't say they blew out Brooklyn, but they definitely beat Brooklyn the first game, and then they lost in the second game. So Indy looks pretty good, and I'm really liking Tyrese Halliburton on this team, man. Like,
dude,
you know, I know a lot of people wanted him to stay in Sacramento because a lot of people wanted to see how that would fit with him and De'Aaron Fox. But this is just my opinion. I always wanted not De'Aaron Fox. I always wanted Tyrese Halliburton to possibly move on from the team and be the franchise star in his team, just because I knew that he was capable of it, and I knew that Sacramento was going to look at Fox as their franchise guy. But I always knew that Halliburton was able to take those keys and be a franchise leader for the team. So him being in Indiana and having the season that he is having, I'm very impressed with it. Then, of course, you got Ben Mathurin, who is one of the top rookies so far in this season. Buddy Hield is shooting the lights out. Miles Turner, we all know that he made the comments about, what the Lakers should do. And then he kind of
so weird.
It was so weird. And then he kind of shit the bed in that next game against Brooklyn, which is kind of crazy to me. But I mean, even besides that, he's been pretty solid this year. Even a guy like Jalen Smith has been pretty solid this year.
Jalen Smith looks good, man.
He looks really good for Indiana. He looks really good for them. So Indy, we all know that they're in that same trajectory as like a Detroit, a Houston, and a lot of these other young teams. But who knows, man? Who knows what they could possibly do, man? Honestly, I mean, we all know Rick Carlisle. He's a championship coach, so he definitely brings a lot of that to the team. Who knows? Honestly, I mean, they showed that they can beat, I don't know if you want to say top tier teams, but they can beat teams that have expectations to be playoff contenders, like the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards. So who knows where this team can go with throughout this year.
They're beating teams that if they're playing a team where fans of that team is like, okay, we need to win this game, like we should win this game, and they're just not. Right. Yeah, they beat the Wizards, the Pistons, the Sixers beat them. They beat the Wizards and the Nets. Well, they'll play the Heat on Friday. We'll see what happens there.
I honestly think they can win that one. Yeah, I'll be honest.
We'll see, man. I mean, I think they have a puncher's chance against a lot of these mid-tier teams for sure. To your point about Tyrese Halliburton, I wanted Sacramento to keep him and make him the franchise player. So same thoughts. I think, good enough to do that for sure.
I would have loved that too.
Indy has done it. They've got him. They've got the backcourt. Ben Mathurin is fucking perfect for him. I think I hope that they're bad enough to get a nice pick in the draft, because that's what they should be doing this year. One more talent. I'm not anti-tank. It's just strategic tanking for 1 to 2 years, and you can really change the direction of your franchise.
If Indiana could get Victor,
yeah, obviously, I mean, you say that about literally every single team. But yes, if they got Wemby, Halliburton, Wemby pick and roll is fucking phenomenal. And honestly, Miles Turner has missed some time. Maybe he misses more time, and he misses, you just sit him for the year. You rest him for the year. Wemby and Turner is a very nice backcourt. I love pairing skilled bigs like that together. The Heat I haven't seen a lot of, but they've been kind of disappointing. 3-5 isn't a death sentence by any means. The Nets
the one thing that I'll say about Miami is that you definitely called it. We all know that they haven't made any. They didn't make any adjustments this offseason, so they're practically running it back with this team, and
they lost.
Yeah, that's true. They lost, especially a big piece like PJ Tucker. That was a really big loss. So I guess you could say that they're kind of facing the consequences because of it. They got onto this slow start. I know that they beat Golden State last night, but it hasn't really been that great for Miami so far this year. They're getting up there in age. They haven't really made any roster adjustments. This definitely, I guess, looking at them so far, I just can't see them being the same team that they were last year. I definitely still think that they can make the playoffs. They can make the play-in, but another Eastern Conference Finals appearance, I don't really think so.
I agree with that take. Let's go to the Western Conference. Let's do a couple more teams, then we'll get out of here. How about we start with the Timberwolves, who are starting to worry me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This is, we've talked about some of the preseason predictions that, through 7 games doesn't really matter, that I've gotten right. This so far is going to be one of my worst takes, that they were going to be a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. But obviously it's early. Their starters have like a negative net rating. Their bench has been better than their starters. Just Cat and Rudy haven't figured it out. And it's harder somehow to hide Cat in this system than it was when he was the sole big. D'Lo, they really need a point guard instead of D'Lo.
I think it's time to move on from D'Lo. I like him a lot, but it's time to move on.
If they could move that contract, they would have by now. I'm pretty sure. I think it's easier said than done to say it's time to move on from D'Lo. I'm sure they'd love to if they could.
It's good Jalen Noel minutes, though.
Hey, Jalen Noel. Jordan McLaughlin's been great, too. It sucks that this is where they are right now. I have hopes that they'll turn it around. And then, Dre, any other teams before I touch on our last team, the Utah Jazz, who deserve to be talked about?
Yes. Any other teams right now? I know we mentioned Phoenix. I'm trying to look at the West. I haven't really watched a lot of Denver. As crazy as it is, I haven't watched a lot of Denver.
I've seen a little bit. Just a
little bit of Denver.
Christian Brown's playing well for him, which is cool.
Right. I feel bad because I haven't watched any of OKC yet this year, but I've heard some mixed things about them. I've heard some pretty good things and I've heard some bad things about
I saw
OKC.
2 games against the Clippers. They had a back-to-back, or not a back-to-back, but 2 games in the same week against each other. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is even better this year.
Well, actually, no, take that back. I saw the game against Dallas this past Saturday night, and Isaiah Joe was shooting the lights out.
Hey, they took Isaiah Joe from Philly. And Philly fans had been talking about Isaiah Joe in G League and practice for years. And now he's over in OKC doing his thing on a 3-year deal that's damn cheap for him.
Pretty good, yeah.
Giddy's been out for a while. Jalen Williams just came back. He's continuing his impressive play. The other Jalen Williams with a Y is playing well, rebounding well. Darius Bazley. A lot of those dudes just playing pretty solidly. I love it. And then the Spurs are doing well, but we'll save them for another episode. The Jazz we're going to finish off on. We need to give Dre, as you say, we need to give the Jazz their flowers while they're here. They're 6-2 right now, and 3rd in the Western Conference. They've beaten good teams. They've beaten good teams by a lot. Mike Conley looks good. Malik Beasley looks good. Lauri Markkanen looks like a number 1 option in this offense. We'll get back to him in a second. Jared Vanderbilt is doing his thing. Walker Kessler looks good for them, only worsening the Rudy Gobert trade. Let's circle back to Lauri Markkanen. Are you watching any Jazz this year?
I have been watching some Jazz this year, and I'll be real. I mean, Lauri Markkanen, he's definitely increasing his value so far. So I don't know if that will make it hard for Utah to really want to move him. Now. That's what I'm saying. Like, if that is still on the table, because there's a lot of teams that could possibly use him right now, and I don't know if Utah they're 6-2 right now, clearly showing that they want to compete. So I don't know if tanking is even on the table at this point. If they just want to continue to just keep running with what they got now, but I can see all-star for Lowry if he does continue to play that the way that he's playing.
Dude,
if Utah continues to be in that top playoff seeding, he could possibly do that. He's had a phenomenal season. He's shooting the ball pretty decently from the mid-range, getting to the basket. He can definitely improve his 3-point percentage, which I think that he can possibly as the season progresses. But Utah is on a fucking tear right now. I know they started 3-0, and I think a lot of us were like, you know what, maybe this might slow down, but they're 6-2 right now, and that is the biggest surprise this year. I don't think anybody saw that coming, especially after the Mitchell trade, especially after the Rudy Gobert trade. It is insane to see them in the position that they're in right now, and you definitely have to give them their props.
Their past 4 games beat the Nuggets by 16, beat the Grizzlies by 1, beat the Grizzlies by 16, and they're currently up 9 in the third quarter against the Mavericks. 2 weeks ago, they beat the Pelicans by 1 in OT. They're beating good teams, not even just good teams, good Western Conference teams that they would likely see in playoffs. There's still the potentiality that if they get the offers they want for their veteran players, they're likely to move them. And at that point, they would likely lose some more games, which is all in the better interest of this team. I think you're right. I think Lauri Markkanen is too valuable for them to trade at this point unless they get like multiple firsts, I guess. He's number one option is like really exaggerating just because I'm excited about Lauri Markkanen right now. But he's putting up 30-pointers, 20 points pretty easily. Let's pull up his like Lauri Markkanen.
Yes. And also, we should definitely give credit to Will Hardy as well. He's definitely been a great person on the sideline so far this year. Obviously coming from Boston from last year, definitely bringing a lot of what he learned last year into this young team now this year.
Averaging 22, 9, and 3 right now, Lauri Markkanen, and he's 25. I want to say, 25. I really like. There was a pipe dream of mine that the Bucks could package. I believe Jordan Nwora, George Hill, Grayson Allen, and our unprotected 2029 pick, way up there. Kind of spooky vibes to trade that pick to Utah for Markkanen. I think it's like an okay offer if they're trying to sell guys. But I'm pretty sure at that point he's going to be pretty close to untouchable for the Jazz, which is great. Good for them.
Yeah. Now, if they were that shit, if they were like 2-6 right now, then that might have been a possibility. But
yeah, we'll see. I would hope so. That would be that's my like number one pipe dream trade hope for the Bucks this year is Lauri Markkanen. We'll see. I think that's gonna wrap us up. I think we're gonna both stop recording and then just continue watching basketball tonight.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Drop it in the morning. If you guys want to check out some of the stuff that we're doing, Dre, why don't you point them in the right direction for what you are creating?
Yes, sir. Well, first and foremost, follow us at Hoop Truther Pod. Definitely follow us, man. We drop episodes very frequently, so definitely tune in. Subscribe to us all over Apple, Spotify, wherever the fuck it is you watch us or listen to us. Give us 5-star reviews. Definitely appreciative. I think we are worthy of that. But then I also do another show titled Count the Bucket. We do that every Sunday. Shout out to my guys CJ and Michael. Follow us at Count Bucket USN. And then also subscribe to the Patreon. I have a new series right now titled NFL Players That Hooped.
That's right.
So definitely be on the lookout for that. Dropping new pieces every Wednesday. The first one came out today featuring Julius Pepper. Shout out to my guy Caleb Conant. We co-wrote that together. So yeah, definitely tune into that.
Shout out Julius Peppers. I think one-time Packer at some point, like late in his career. You can check me out at _Lucifer on Twitter if you have any interest. No pressure. I'm also doing a Substack this season that I've mentioned a few times on here. It's called Bucks Clips. You can find it on my Twitter. I tweet the link to it every Monday, which is when every newsletter drops, sent straight to your email about the Milwaukee Bucks week and the Clippers week, analyzing all of their games and any other narratives that are surrounding them at that time. I'm starting to use plays that I turn into GIFs because they can be put in Substack. So there's GIFs of some plays that I reference to in there. And there's a ton of just bullshit memes in there that I ripped from Twitter for both teams. So if that interests you at all, go check it out. Every week it's Bucks Clips on Mondays. We are going to check out. It's the middle of the week. I got one more day and then I'm remote on Fridays. I'm just trying to savor it until Friday. Trey, I'm hoping your week is going well and it continues to get better. We will see you next. Deuces.